Andre Young, aka Dr. Dre, was born on February 18, 1965, in the city of Compton, California. He was born in a poor family, which didn't have a lot of money, but this led him to have more ambition to succeed in life. His parents married in 1964, separated in 1968, and divorced in 1972. Andre was close to his mom and to his siblings, especially his brother, Tyree. During his childhood, violence and gangs rocked Compton, and Dre witnessed some of his friends getting killed because they were dealing drugs or protecting their territories. Dre chose to stay out of the violent gang life. In 1976, Dre began attending Vanguard Junior High School in Compton, but due to gang violence, he transferred to the safer suburban Roosevelt Junior High School. Later, his mother married Warren Griffin, expanding the family with 3 stepsisters and 1 stepbrother who would later embark on a rap career under the name Warren G. Dre attended Centennial High School in Compton during his freshman year in 1979, but transferred to Fremont High School in South Central Los Angeles due to poor grades. With Dre's father absent for much of his life, he sought inspiration elsewhere. As a young kid, Dr. Dre started to listen to music and drew inspirations from artists which include George Clinton, Quincy Jones, and Isaac Hayes. Dre received a music mixer for Christmas and soon turned his family's home into his studio. For hours, he would work his magic, taking pieces of different songs and sounds to make his own beats. In 1980, he started making tapes, DJing school gigs and his mom's parties. As a kid, Dre was very shy, but when he performed as a DJ, he would let the turntables speak for him. Influenced by Grandmaster Flash's track The Adventures of Grandmaster Flash on the Wheels of Steel, Dr. Dre frequented a club called Eve's After Dark to witness numerous live performances by DJs and rappers. It was there that he began his DJ career, initially going by the name Dr. J, inspired by his favorite basketball player, Julius Erving. At this club, he met aspiring rapper Antoine Carabee, who would later become DJ Yella of N.W.A. Soon afterwards, he adopted the moniker Dr. Dre, a mix of his previous alias Dr. J and his first name, referring to himself as the master of mixology. Eve After Dark had a back room with a small 4-track studio. In this studio, Dre and Yella recorded several demos. In their first recording session, they recorded a song entitled Surgery. In 1983, Dr. Dre hooked up with a group of DJs called the World Class Ranking Crew. They made a handful of recordings along the way and some money too. Though he was only 18, girls were drawn to the shy Dre who hid behind the surgeon's mask when performing as a DJ. He loved the attention and the little bit of bling bling that was coming in. He would go to the mall and buy clothes, buy a whole new outfit and leave the ones he wore in the store. But by 1986, Drake retired the World Class Ranking Crew. Dre wanted to do something harder. During their time in the crew, a lot of times they would get clowned at and mocked because of their dancing step and dressing. Dre was also not happy because he did not have much control or say about the type of music they were making since he was the youngest in the World Class Ranking Crew. Dre's neighborhood friend, Eazy E, came to the rescue. He decided to join a record label known as Ruthless Records, which him and Eazy E co-founded with Jerry Heller, who was also Eazy's manager. They also teamed up with fellow rappers Ice Cube, Yella, MC Ren, the Arabian Prince and the DOC to form a group called N.W.A. From the money he got from the streets, Eazy E was going to fund the record label and Dre would do all the creative work. The N.W.A. group made waves due to their graphic depiction of the harsh street life in Compton. According to Dr. Dre, they just said something that everybody always wanted to say, but didn't have the guts to say it or didn't have a microphone. The group's album Straight Outta Compton, which came out in 1988, sold more than 2 million copies and marked the arrival of a new genre, gangsta rap. One track, F Police, ignited a firestorm of controversy. The song, which explored tensions between black youth and the police, was thought to incite violence. The FBI even sent a warning letter to Ruthless Records and its parent company about the song. This was to no avail as Dre and his crew did not bow down to the pressure. The record became an underground hit with virtually no support from radio, the press, or TV. Soon, music fans around the country were identifying with the Compton sound, a first for a California rapper. At the time, it was all East Coast music. N.W.A. crew wanted to represent where they were from, and they succeeded to put Compton on the map. In the spring of 1989, N.W.A. took their wild live show on the road. They brought the gritty glamour of gangster rap to the inner city and suburbia America. Sales of the Straight Outta Compton album and the tours made Dre a wealthy man. At one point, he bought a watch for $10,000. Their life was now filled with booze, girls, and parties. In 1989, while on tour, Dre received a phone call that he had lost his brother, Tyree. Tyree was a victim of a senseless act of violence. He was attacked by an unknown assailant in Compton, California. The attack left Tyree with a broken neck, which tragically caused his death. 10 years later, Dr. Dre took a journey to a place where he could express his feelings about his brother's death in his song The Message. After attending the funeral of his brother, he returned to the N.W.A. tour, but was shocked to learn that his friend Ice Cube had abruptly quit the group. Dre was angry because he perceived that Cube was putting money before music. He tried to sit him down and discuss the situation, but it could not be worked out. Ice Cube had never signed a contract with N.W.A. and was free to leave. While Eazy E appeared to be the undisputed leader following Cube's departure, the music was in Dre's hands and control as he produced tracks for a number of other acts on Ruthless Records, including Eazy-E's 1988 solo debut Eazy Does It, Above the Law's 1990 debut Livin' Like Hustlers, and many more. Later on, Dr. Dre and others who had signed under Eazy's record label Ruthless Records felt that Jerry Heller, the man Eazy E had brought into managing N.W.A.'s money, was giving them smaller individual amounts of what was being earned by the group as a whole. In particular, Dr. Dre, the D.O.C., and Michelle Lou all felt like they were being cheated out of their rightfully earned cut and were getting the urge to leave. They were not allowed to physically see their contracts. Dr. Dre got the support and advice to leave from his friend and fellow N.W.A. lyricist, the D.O.C., and his bodyguard at the time, Suge Knight, who also had his own aspirations about being a music mogul. Knight, a notorious strongman and intimidator, sent a group of guys with baseball bats to Ruthless Records' lawyer's office to try and see the artists' contracts. They were shocked to learn that the artists were getting about 2 cents on every record sold. Ice Cube noticed this initially and actually never signed any contract and of course was the first to go. However, since Dr. Dre, D.O.C. and Michelle Lou had signed the contracts, they couldn't be released and had to wait until their contractual time period was over. Eazy E and his manager, Jerry Heller, were determined not to release their top talent and most profitable artist willingly. On April 23, 1991, Dr. Dre called Eazy E and informed him that he wanted to meet him at the Solar Records studio to iron out the issues. To his surprise, when he showed up, Eazy E was confronted by Suge Knight and a group of guys armed with baseball bats and pipes. No blows were traded, however. Suge allegedly told Eazy that he knew where his mother lived and got him to release some of the artists who were signed to his record label. Later, according to an interview, Jerry Heller claimed that Eazy E told him that he had a bad feeling about Suge Knight and wanted to kill him, but Heller convinced him not to do it. The entire situation severely strained the remaining fragments of Eazy E and Dr. Dre's friendship, sparking a bitter feud between Ruthless Records and Dre and Suge's newly established Death Row Records. This feud gave rise to iconic diss tracks exchanged between them, including Dre Day, Real Motherfucker G's, What Would You Do, and several others. It also played a significant role in elevating the careers of emerging stars like Snoop Dogg, the Dogg Pound, Dresta, and B.G. Knockout. This feud persisted until the unfortunate and controversial passing of Eazy E on March 26, 1995. In 1992, Dre would hit the ground running with his new label spearheaded by Suge Knight, who was a former football player and bodyguard. The new label launched a roster of stars, including Dre's girlfriend at the time, Michelle Lou Denise Toussaint. Dre released his first solo single, Deep Cover, in the spring of 1992. Not only was the record a debut of his elastic G-Funk sound, it was also the beginning of his collaboration with rapper Snoop Doggy Dogg. Dre discovered Snoop through his stepbrother Warren G, and he immediately began working with the rapper. Snoop played a substantial role on Dre's 1992 debut album, The Chronic, almost as prominently as Dre himself. This album achieved multi-platinum status, secured a place in the top 10 charts, and earned Grammy Awards, thanks in part to hit singles like Nothing But a G Thing, Dre Day, and Let Me Ride. The Chronic had a profound impact on the entire hip-hop landscape, ushering in a new era. For the next 4 years, it was nearly impossible to find mainstream hip-hop that hadn't been influenced in some way by Dre and his distinctive G-Funk sound. Death Row artists were overtaking pop and metal music both on the charts and in the public eye as the new bad boys of music. However, some people didn't like gangster rap music or the messages behind it. He got some backlashes from some sectors of the community. In 1992, he escaped death 2 times. Firstly, on June 28, 1992, hours before midnight, a barbecue grill and an overfill of charcoal caused Dre's Calabasas mansion to set on fire. 2 firefighters who exhausted the fire were treated in the hospital for minor injuries. The fire caused over $125,000 in home damages. On another incident, Dre was shot after a fight broke out. According to him, someone had disrespected one of the girls at the party, and when he tried to intervene, he was shot. Prior to that, on January 27, 1991, at a music industry party at the Panana Soup Club in Hollywood, Dr. Dre assaulted television host Dee Barnes of the Fox television program Pump It Up, following an episode of the show. Barnes had interviewed N.W.A., which was followed by an interview with Ice Cube in which Cube mocked N.W.A. Dre pleaded no contest to Dee Barnes and was fined $2,500 and placed on 2 years probation. Dre also was ordered to perform 240 hours of community service and produce an anti-violence public service announcement for television. The turning point came in 1994 when Dre took his $200,000 Ferrari out for a high-speed joyride. He was pulled over for doing 90 and also failed an alcohol test. In violation of his probation, he was sentenced to 8 months in jail. He took his time in jail to reflect on his life. After he was released, Dre kept his focus on the music and distanced himself from the violence said to be happening frequently behind the scenes at Death Row Music. But as the label's co-owner and president, Dre was accountable whether he liked it or not. And after doing some hard thinking in prison, Dre determined that he didn't like where Death Row was going. He concluded that at Death Row, creative control and financial freedom came at a greater cost, his conscience and his peace of mind. It just stopped being fun for him to be at Death Row. In March of 1996, he left the label, but at a financial loss since he was not given his money as per contract. He was more concerned about his peace of mind. 5 months after he left Death Row, Dr. Dre received one of the greatest shocks of his life. His former label mate, Tupac Shakur, who had been riding in the passenger seat of Suge Knight's BMW, was shot and killed by a passing gunman. Upon his departure from Death Row Records on March 22, 1996, Dr. Dre quickly launched Aftermath Entertainment through Interscope Records. It was founded as a boutique label that prides itself on quality over quantity, focusing on small numbers of high-profile releases. Getting out of Death Row, Dre was trying to distance himself from gangster music for a while. That's why he made the song Been There, Done That. The critics and fans weren't buying it though. The turning point for Aftermath came in 1998 when Dre's close friend, Jimmy Iovine, the co-founder of Interscope Records, parent label for Aftermath, suggested that Dr. Dre sign Eminem, a white rapper from Detroit. Dre produced 3 songs and provided vocals for 2 songs on Eminem's successful and controversial debut album The Slim Shady LP, released in 1999. Dr. Dre's second solo album, released on November 16, 1999, was considered an ostentatious return to his gangsta rap roots. The album was originally supposed to be called Chronic 2000, but Dre switched the title because his former label, Death Row Records, released a compilation album by the same name earlier that year. The album was highly successful, charting at number 2 on the Billboard 200 charts and has since been certified 6 times platinum. Following the success of 2001, Dr. Dre focused on producing songs and albums for other artists. In 2001, Dr. Dre amassed a total income of approximately $52 million. This came from selling a portion of his stake in Aftermath Entertainment to Interscope Records and his production work on hit songs like Family Affair by Mary J. Blige. Rolling Stone magazine recognized him as the second highest paid artist of the year. In 2004, Dr. Dre was ranked 44th, earning $11.4 million primarily from production royalties stemming from projects like albums by G-Unit and D12, as well as the hit single Rich Girl by Gwen Stefani and rapper Eve. Forbes estimated his net worth at $270 million in 2012. The same publication later reported that he raked in $110 million in 2012 through various ventures, securing his position as the highest paid artist of the year. Dr. Dre's income skyrocketed in 2015 when he sold Beats to Apple, marking the biggest single-year payday of any musician in history and making him the world's wealthiest musical performer of that year.